what is fair? Let's say they cannot complete the regular season. They have to cap it now. What do you think is a fair way to settle this, considering there are these bubble teams? Boucher.
Well, I think you just got to go to the lowest number possible of games played, and I think that's 68 games, and backtrack everybody to 68 games, and just go from there. And the records that you had at 68, the top 8 make it, and you go from there and try and see if you can get a best-of-7 series in each round at that point. To me, that would be the fairest. I'm not saying every team would like it, but it would give you the closest that you could possibly have to a normal postseason. Just the other way you do it, maybe adding teams, that are in the lower wild card, 4 or 5 teams additionally. To me, I don't know how much time you're going to have. And I don't know if that's something that, seeing that we don't know how much time we have, where the venues would be, if that would be possible. I think if you just went back to 68 games, it's unfortunate for the teams that played 71 and didn't get in. But to me, that would be the best way to do it, in my opinion.
It's tough, Liam, to really –
There's arguments to be made here, both sides.
There is, and it's tough to make a fair ruling for everybody involved, to be quite honest with you. It's an unfair situation. The other option would be to go to points percentage, counting every game that's been played. The top 8 teams in each conference with the highest points percentage get in. There'd be some arguments there as well, but I don't really know what their answer is. I do like some of the creativity that's going out there because right before the season was put on pause, there were some great races in both conferences. The New York Rangers are a team that come to mind. The Islanders were sitting on the outside looking in. Western Conference, take your pick. There was 3 or 4 teams there that were gearing up for a pretty significant 3 weeks to end the final regular season, regular games. But I don't know what the right answer is. I would lean to more points percentage. That way every game had mattered throughout the regular season.
Yeah, because if you're one of those teams that won a game, after game 68, you look at Columbus Blue Jackets, you mentioned the New York Islanders. The Blue Jackets sit there and they're above the Islanders. Well, they won their last game. They played more games than the Islanders, but they won their last game. It's hard to know that they played the game, we watched the game, and then to say the game just didn't happen. It's hard. It's difficult to know what's fair at this point, but we're in a situation that is totally unforeseen, something you can't prepare for, and the guys are just trying to make their way through it and figure it out. We're still waiting to see if and when they are actually going to play any games, let alone playoff games. But he also referenced some of the stuff that's out there in the media about possibilities for the postseason, possibilities for the playoffs. And what's happening, and you see reports out there that the NBA possibly tinkering or thinking about a centralized postseason, playing a bunch of games in Vegas perhaps, Premier League in England, considering a similar situation. I know Scott Burnside of The Athletic wrote all about it. What do you two think of the idea of centralized playoffs, of putting a group of teams in one area? As former players, this whole situation is one giant adjustment. That would just be one other adjustment, do you think, Sharpie?
Yeah, as long as the NBC broadcasters covering the game get to go to Arizona or Florida or Las Vegas, wherever we're putting these games, because we need to be a part of it as well. I don't know. I think it's a cool idea. I love the creativity. Again, I think back to the times I went to the World Championships of hockey in April and May, and every team is playing out of 2 cities. There's 16 countries involved. The World Hockey Championship in September a couple years ago, everybody was playing out of Toronto, Montreal, a couple other cities as well. So it does give a unique perspective to it. I think it would be cool to see 16 teams kind of floating around the same area, getting things done. But there's so much to figure out outside of hockey before we can even put these thoughts together. But I would like to see it. It would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree. I think, considering the fact that this is a scenario where you probably wouldn't have fans at the game, that to me is going to create a unique environment to begin with. So if that's the case, having them in one spot, limiting the travel, limiting the exposure that they have to, I guess, the outside world, just in case there were to be another flare-up. I think it makes for an interesting situation. I think the guys would rally around that. Certainly it would be different to play in front of a building where you don't have fans. But that also might lend to maybe, on the broadcast side, something that could be enhanced, different angle positions, maybe more microphones to get a better feel for what's being said during the game, and maybe look at the game from a different lens at that point. It's different. And I think that we have to embrace whatever the change is going to be, whatever the new world will be for the playoffs. I think we have to embrace it. I don't mind the idea because you're probably putting teams in one spot to keep them safe. And I think that's the most important thing is the player's safety.
More microphones brings up another really interesting topic, the idea of audio during these games. If and when you return, perhaps we have these games without fans in the arena. Listen, half of playoff hockey is feeding off the emotion and the fans. And I think that's just from a viewing standpoint. You know something big is happening when you flip the game on and the fans are going absolutely crazy. So you're there, you're on the ice, put yourself back into the time you were playing. Would you want noise pumped in? Would you want some sort of ambient sound behind you rather than just nothing as if you were at practice? Or does that not work for you?
Well, I don't know if I'd want fake noise because it just doesn't seem genuine. And I think, what you will have that would be normal, like a normal game, is that during a whistle, they will play music over the loudspeaker in the building. So that'll be as normal as possible. But what you won't have is if there's a big play, a big save, a big hit, or something that gets the people out of their seat, you're not going to have that rush of excitement from the crowd, which will be different. There's no doubt about it. But, Sharpie and I, we played in games and preseason exhibitions where maybe you're playing in a smaller rink and there are no fans and you still find a way to compete and try to get a job done. I think the focus as a player when you get on the ice is going to be about, okay, my surroundings are going to be a little bit different, but the job is still the same. You still have to approach it the same way and with the same intensity. You just may not be able to get that jolt that you typically get from your home crowd when something good happens in your own building, which will be an adjustment for the players.
Yes, so much of the Stanley Cup playoffs comes down to crowd noise, handling it on the road, using it to your advantage on home ice. I wouldn't want the fake crowd noise. I look back to my experiences, and Boucher's right, in training camp a few times, you're playing those inter-squad games in front of an empty building at the United Center. It's a weird feeling. You get used to it after a while, and you really got to rely on each other, your teammates, to kind of create your own noise. Guy makes a big play, a hit, a save, a goal. You explode on the bench, you make some noise. It would make for a unique situation, fun to watch, that's for sure. And I love Boucher's idea. NBC, our broadcasting group, we can come up with some creative ideas to kind of show why hockey is such a fun sport to watch all playoffs long.
Well, I think you can really get creative here. Let's have multiple audio feeds. You get to select at home your audio feed. And I think one should be the raw, R-rated, on the ice audio feed.
Oh, yeah.
Parental supervision, you decide at home whether you're ready to hear what you're going to hear. But I know I would like to hear that. It would be fantastic. And then maybe one with the pumped-in bands, one with organ music throughout the whole thing. But I say options out there. I want to hear what you guys are saying on the ice during the playoffs.
Well, to me, that's the most interesting part of the game. And as players, it's probably the one thing that we probably miss the most, or at least I do, is the banter amongst players and the game within the game, trying to get in somebody's head, trying to gain that edge. Sometimes the line is crossed occasionally. But I think, guys are willing to push the envelope as far as they can. It'd be great to get some, multiple mics on players, perhaps, you know what I mean, and see if you can get some footage that way in a playoff game. Just find different ways to sell the game, sell the product, knowing that it's an unusual circumstance. But we're, trying our very best to bring the game to the fans who are sitting at home, who've gone through a tough time, and maybe bring some excitement to them, seeing that they can't be in the building. I think it'd be a real unique experience.
It would be cool to watch. It would be cool to take part in. That's for sure. But let's not forget what makes hockey such an awesome sport to be a part of. It's being at the game live. It's the crowd noise. It's the momentum swings. And that has to do with all the fans that are in the building. So although these ideas are awesome, they're creative, they're fun, I hope something happens and we do get to award the Stanley Cup this year. I just hope we do it in front of a full building.